You genuinely cannot compare the experience of an OLED to any other monitor type, and they're steadily becoming better and lower in cost. Good afternoon, welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech, the new cameras of the 4-piece variety Orgi Triple XL. And we have the MSI 273 QP X24. A lot of numbers once again. I know a lot of people face roll, but this time they actually did something cool because the X24 stands for 240 Hertz, which is, they've got an X50, which is 500 Hertz as well. That must be unbelievable because this is already really good. We used it at the Rand Easter show this year. And then they said, hey, do you want to do a full review on it and have it ruin your life for 3 weeks while we're at Computex in Taipei? So yes, I naturally decided to ruin my life once again with something that I cannot afford.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Hashtag hit us up with a like and subscribe. So maybe one day I can have enough YouTube ad revenue to afford something like this because it's such a leap. I have two really good IPS monitors and they just cannot compare. This is the 3rd generation QD OLED from MSI, so it's got a couple of nice tweaks and updates and such to make sure that the burn-in is avoided. There's a lot being done on that to make sure that you get your full 3-year warranty out of this. And feasibly, it should actually last quite a lot longer. The WOLEDs, you know what's so funny is the WOLED is kind of more of a gaming panel than a design panel second, whereas this is the design panel first and then a gaming panel second. So if that's the dominant feature of your life, then I would actually say stick with the QD OLED. It isn't perfect, however, there is a little bit of a problem that the QD OLEDs bring to the surface, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's go through what's in the box. So inside of the package, you're going to get a really big brick that is the power supply. This is her over here because MSI does this pretty much with all of their monitors. They prefer to go with the external power brick, 120 watt capable over here. So more than enough throughput, I would say. It does come with a couple of standoffs if you want to VESA mount it, and then it comes with a really nice DisplayPort cable that's got clips on the other end so it can't fall out of the slot. It's a 2-piece stand as well. The base piece does detach from the neck. That's where all of your swivel happens. It's actually at the bottom of the neck over here instead of at the top, which is a lot more stable because there's some weight on it, so it doesn't just flop about like a fish. Magic Carb Cast Splash.
You call that a splash? Show him what a real splash attack looks like, Magikarp.
Then you have the neck itself. It does have a hole through the middle over here so that you can channel some cables through it. And then that obviously goes into the back where there's like a square VESA mount like right in the middle over there. That they've 2-for-1'd it over there, so it's just got clips at the top. So it sits on its mount without needing the screws, which is really nice, so that it makes setting it up way easier. If you're going to do it straight out of the box, it does pull, slide out of the box on an egg carton. You could just hook it in, put the screws on, and then you're A for away. There's more than enough tilt and swivel to do that and to basically get as square on as humanly possible. I do like that they've included a periscope neck with a pretty small footprint because it makes it getting into what I like to call the esports intimacy position that much easier. The overall finish is pretty good. I don't actually like the mirror finish up top here because it's very prone to scratches. It got some box rash above the MSI logo. That wasn't me, just to be clear. It was like that when I used it around Easter show. I'm innocent. Right. 4 ports, you've got 2 HDMI 2.1s that will do full 240 Hertz on the 1440p, the DisplayPort, and a 3.5mm pass-through jack. So if you were passing audio, let's say from an Xbox into the panel, you could then output it to speakers. Nice little touch that. In Kensington lock on the bottom right over here, vents and stuff because there's a lot of cooling that's gone into this to extend that lifetime. Now the panel. This is where things get very interesting because previously QD OLEDs had like brightness issues. This really doesn't, and it's got a sneaky little mode which can make it obscenely bright. So this thing can do 1,000 nits, and if I go down here, I believe it's not in professional because that's just aside the image enhancement. Never ever use it on any of the MSI panels except for the Rapid VA. It worked on that for some reason. Actually not too bad, but yeah, we don't like that. At the moment it's on 80% brightness, you know, with a lot of lighting pointed in its general direction, but if we go down to display HDR, there you'll see it says True Peak 400, and then below that is hello, have some brightness mode. after a few seconds because MSI, the like controllers are a little bit slow. But there you go. Now you basically have a WOLED without having to buy a whole nother panel. So it's 2-in-1, which is really actually very cool. Now, most of the time, I actually use it at about 70 brightness. I found that that was more than comfortable enough, and especially with its blacklight equalizer, where some FPS games and such, where there's really dark corners, like in Escape from Tarkov, do benefit from that sort of technology. It's not the be-all, end-all version of that I've ever seen, but it's actually pretty stonks. It's strong enough that it's gonna blacklight equalize more than enough while keeping contrast ratios. Overall, I have to say the color reproduction with this 99% DCI-P3 rating and true less than 2 delta variants, you can see it just as an immediate example. I've got a pretty good IPS, which is 98% DCI-P3, but it doesn't have that delta variance level. So you can see on the banner there on one of the shots that I took of Cyberpunk in the Steam menu, there's basically no detail on the IPS side, but then on this side you can see all the buildings and stuff in the background, and that's going to be the same pretty much for every single environment that you would use it in. Combine that with a pixel response time of 0.03 milliseconds and you can hit shots like this.
Very sus. Kick you.
Professional old man, dude. Now, bearing in mind, I'm a very, very old man for gaming at this point in time. You can see my grey hair, I'm 36 years old, and I could actually see how much smoother it was, my aim, because there's absolutely no smear. This is why it's such a big leap, because it's almost like we've gone full circle. The CRTs, because of the way they worked, it was basically direct light, and you had in the nanoseconds of pixel response time, where this basically enters into the same environment at a 0.03. There will always be a small delay on IPS no matter what you do. And I've owned all the best IPS panels you can pretty much get, including an Alienware 240Hz with a true 1 millisecond response time. And that was the first proper IPS 240Hz with a 99% DCI-P3. I do like a good monitor, especially at a good price. And these are unbelievably well priced at 11,500 now. That's down from like 13, 14K like a year or two ago. Overall, the gaming experience on this is unbelievably good, and it's actually better for big open world environments. Hilariously, one of their main partners is in World of Warcraft. So when you're playing something like Space Marine or Red Dead Redemption 2, you know, those kinds of games, this is unbelievably good. It's life-ruiningly good compared to like an IPS. But this is where it parts ways with the WOLED, because they both have the same sort of response time, except that this has a much better contrast performance compared to that. The True Black 400 on this is basically the best that I've ever used. If we look at the Costa Rica on this monitor, it's unbelievably pretty. Especially the shot there of the sunset over the water where the rocks fade to black. It's way better than anything that I could actually show you on camera. But I have recorded these shots at 120 FPS. So if you go super slow-mo in some of the games, you can see that the IPS smears, whereas the OLED has a much better pixel response time. And that's what really completely sets these things apart, where you cannot get there with the IPS. Now, the idea here from MSI is to keep the X24s at a really competitive price point. They're also looking to introduce a 30-inch on this. I'd love to see an ultra wide from them with this kind of spec. don't know if they need to do WOLED when they've kind of cracked the code with this one. You don't need to go over 70% brightness in most cases. And the only real downside to this is white text. The clear text in Windows allows you to realign it so that you don't get that green and red shadowing. It was just with the white text, no matter how many times I tried it, it still gave a red shadow on the bottom. Sometimes I could get the green shadow on the top of the text to disappear, but there was no problems with black text on a white background. It was only with the dark backgrounds with the white text that I ran into that problem. It is, however, significantly improved from previous generations. I had an Alienware 20,000 Rand ultra wide for review once upon a time, one of the first QD OLEDs in that sort of spec, 200 Hertz panel as well, really high spec unit, but the text was basically completely awful. The WOLED didn't really have that problem. Now this is why I say you kind of come to a split in the road here, because if you're gaming primary and designing and editing and stuff secondary, I would probably say the WOLED. But if you're a professional, then you're going to want the QD OLED because of that very precise color accuracy it has, with the delta variance being less than 2, plus the 99% DCI-P3. Plus this has modes for Adobe sRGB, normal sRGB, and then DCI-P3 modes built into the monitor so that you can flatten all of that out. You're just tweaking brightness based on your environment to get the most accurate colors possible. Overall then, the pros significantly outweigh the cons. It's literally just that text that I could not, no matter how many times I tried, and I tried for hours on end to get it right. I would love one of these as a gaming panel. If there was for me, if there was a toss-up, let's say there was exactly the same spec with a WOLED at the exact same price, I probably would go for this because I do video editing and stuff as well, and I want to make sure that my stuff looks good and is color accurate. It's also really nice for watching back HDR content on this. Was unbelievably sick. We did some HDR movie and stuff as well, and it's very nice. We do have these on the store at the moment for 11,500. So it is, yes, you can get 2 IPSs or 1440p, 200 Hertz kind of spec with similar color palettes, but they will never be as accurate as this. No matter how much I try to tune it, the saturation is always off. There's always something that's not 100% correct. If you're gaming and designing, this is actually kind of a no-brainer in a lot of senses. Mac Retina display, what's that?
What did he say?
Anywho, that is all I have for you on this MSI 273QP X24, which I'm now going to basically go use for the next 2 weeks and continue to run my life with it when I have to give it back. If you have enjoyed this review, however, please do hit us up with a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side.